And I want to talk about reproductive decision tree, and it's also known as a National Swine Reproduction Guide, a troubleshooting and management tool. And so our presentation is going to be, I'm going to talk a little bit, why was the swine decision tree developed, and who prepared the document, and then I'm going to who provided the funding. You always have to have some kind of funding to get these things developed. And then what computer format and preparation that we used for the information. It does have a user fee. And then we're going to demonstrate how the tool works. I'll get on the internet, and then I'll show you how it works. Now, this is it. So where are the... Okay, in the United States now, there's somewhere around 5,757,000 swine breeding animals. So when you go back and you look at where they're located, they're going to be in the Midwest. Of course, Iowa's number one. They got 790,000. And then North Carolina's number two at 870,000. So you can see most of these sows are in this area right through here. But there is sows and breeding sows in these other states out in here. Not a lot, but even in Alaska they got 200. In Hawaii you got 3,000. These primarily eat a lot of garbage over there. But see, there's sows everywhere in about all these states. Now, this is the effective, what we call a FTE. These are number of people that with appointments that have a subject matter that could influence reproductive performance. And it could be nutrition, it can be genetics, it can be housing, anything like that that might have some kind of an aspect to improve reproductive performance. Even the housing is important because of environmental effects, right? So I went back and I contacted all the universities and find out where the people are. And let's go back here. If we look in Iowa, there's 7.95 people assigned to some kind of appointment with swine extension. So if you look at then the extension FTEs, then of course they're going to be in the areas where the pigs are. Iowa's got about 8 people assigned. North Carolina's got 3. Well, that's a pretty big difference here. But see, some of these states have got a number, but some of them have nothing. No one in the university has anyone assigned to work with pigs. So there's kind of a deficiency. If they got a problem with reproductive performance, where are they going to go? Where are they going to get the information? So that can be a problem. Now, you know, a lot of the welfare activists has been out here in this East Coast where they're trying to get rid of the stalls and things like that. But you can see they got low numbers of pigs. There's no one out there working with the pork industry there. And these values were, as of today, June of 2004. There's 1 or 2 positions open in the United States for extension people, but I didn't put them in there because usually what happens is people like I retire, your position not refilled, so you don't know what they're going to do for sure. So you look at that and say, okay, yeah, but who are they? If you look at it, here's nutritionists. There's essentially in the U.S. there's 9.5 FTE. But there's 19 people that have nutrition specialty. If you look at the next one, we got the management, just general management. There's about 10 of those, and 8 FTE. We look at genetics, there's 5. There's 10. Housing, we got about 4.2 FTE assigned. There's 9 people there. Health's got 6. Reproductive physiology, we got 4. And then if we get now with welfare, there's 3. So when I think about it, when I push to get this thing developed, is what can you do on your farm that makes a decision every day that helps? Can you make that genetic decision on a farm? Very, very few of you, don't you? Especially at the farm level. They have to work. They don't make the decision on whose genetics they're going to use. They could do some things in nutrition. They know how to feed the sow, but they don't know anything about the diets, but they have to have management, things like that. But if I'm going to make an effect on a farm, reproductive performance is going about every day on those sow farms. You can make a difference on that. Anybody can make a difference who works on that sow farm with reproduction. So that's why I pushed for this guide. So if you look in the United States, we got 61 people involved with pig production for swine extension. Now, if you look at it, you really want to drive the point home, where are those 4 people in the United States that's going to work with reproduction? Well, here they are. You got Dr. Knox in Illinois, but he's not a full-time FTE. He only works about half of his time in extension. And he's focused on reproduction. You got Cara Stewart here in Indiana. She's 0.6. And then in Pennsylvania, Dr. Hagen up there's got about 0.15, but he's really an administrator, and so wouldn't expect a lot out of that one. But nothing against administrators, but they tell us what to do. And but if you look at Virginia, you got Dr. Estienne there. He's about a quarter. Now you think about it, these 4 are supposed to cover the whole United States, huh? How are they going to do it? So I thought, well, we need to have some kind of a troubleshooting guide to help them design for reproduction. So that's the philosophy behind trying to get this program up and going. Now, a number of states without an animal science extension specialist. Remember I showed you all those zeros? There's 32 states that don't have anybody to help them with swine extension. None. Not in any subject matter. There's nobody assigned there. We've got 32 states. So if they have a question on reproduction, where are they going to go? A lot of states that have that 0 don't have veterinarians very well trained in reproduction. Then if you look at total number of breeding animals in states without an animal science extension swine specialist, well, you think, well, there's only about 622,600 sows that don't have some kind of an extension swine specialist. But most of them are going to be probably in swine nutrition and just management, general management, nothing specialized in reproductive performance. And then if you look at those, then the total number of breeding animals in states without an academic trained PhD extension reproductive physiologist, there's 4,813,000 sows without an academically trained reproductive physiologist. If you look at the population, then that's 85% of the breeding animals don't have anybody. But reproductive performance is really important on your farm. If you don't get the sows bred, you're in big trouble. Remember when I retired, I had a guy come up at the retirement saying, well, Don taught us 3 things. You know what those were? The first one he says, get the sows bred. The second one was, get the sows bred. And the third one was, get the sows bred. You don't get the sows bred, you're in trouble. If you get the sows bred, the sows will take care of you. Okay? So, that's why we pushed for this guide. Now, so we did put it together. The U.S. Pork Center of Excellence headed it up. Dr. David Meisinger was the CEO at that time of the Pork Center of Excellence. He pulled a bunch of us together. And at that time, we invited all the researchers, because there's several researchers involved with reproduction. But I asked them, can you troubleshoot a problem on a pig farm? Every one of them, I'm not kidding you, every one of them said, I don't think I can. I said, well, you got any students you're training? Oh, yeah, molecular biologist. And I'm sure if the molecular biologist went out there and said that your deoxyribonucleic acids aren't lined up on your sow farm, you'd say, well, there's the door. So we pulled this group together to try to get information of what we need to put together. So we ended up then, because the first meeting we had about 50 people showed up, and they was all PhDs. When you got 50 PhDs in a room, you're not going to get anything done but arguments. So we spent all day, and I wasn't even there. I was sitting at home on the phone, and I thought, well, they're not getting anywhere. So we ended up closing out the day, didn't have anything done, couldn't agree on anything. So then I said, well, we'll just pick them, who we think can help us. And so that's what we did. And I'll just better mention their names here. Mark Estienne, he's at VPI, or Virginia Tech. He is a reproductive physiologist. We had Wayne Singleton, he's retired from Purdue University. He's a reproductive physiologist. And then Dr. Baker at Iowa State's our swine veterinarian. We had on the committee Timothy Safransky, he's a swine geneticist at the University of Missouri. Dr. Flowers is a reproductive physiologist at North Carolina State. And Dr. Knox is a physiologist, reproductive physiologist at Illinois. And then Ken Stalder is a swine geneticist at Iowa State, and Dr. Mark Knauer is a swine geneticist at North Carolina. That's the people we pulled into as a committee and said, okay, let's prepare this swine guide. So that's what we did. And then so I kind of set the rules. I said, how are we going to do this? What's the objectives? And for the computer format, and also the preparation of the information. So I always believe that you got to make it so you can use it. If it's really highly technical and complicated, it's not going to be used. So I said, okay, keep everything as simple as possible. You know, if you get some of these scientists, they'll answer a question that's 5 pages long. Well, you're going to read a 5-page? No way. Because I keep telling them, pork producers are different than scientists. We don't have time out here on the farm to surf the net at night, do you? You got time to sit there, spend 2 or 3 hours kind of looking through things, just messing around here? You want to get in there and get out quick. So we got to keep it simple. The next one is make the computer program highly user-friendly and as simple as possible, because I don't want any fancy animation stuff that takes up a lot of memory space. If I go in western Nebraska, you get out there, there's the sand hills. They don't have really good computer systems on the internets and things. You have to use a telephone maybe to dial in. And if you put this fancy stuff in there, it takes forever to download it. So keep it really simple. We've done that. Then I want to make the appearance of information as simple as possible. I didn't want any fancy graphs and figures and no colors and all this fancy stuff, just black and white, because you don't know what they're going to do on the other end. Keep it simple. And then answer the question in simple terms and provide documentation for their answer. Now, the pork producers themselves probably don't care much about the scientific answer. But we looked at this as being used by consultants also. And they may say, I need to get myself updated on what's the literature. So then we've got the answer, and then we got a button here you can click. That takes you to the references that answer came from. And then we have a search document. We're searching now. We're just getting that put together. It's looking really good. Just search the document for a specific term. Pulls up the fact sheets that we have in there on that topic. Now, some people want to go through. I'll show you. They'll probably want to read quite a few of the questions just to get themselves up to date, or they're interested in a lot of things, not just one particular thing. But the search options are going to be available. So then we have the information readily available to all pork producers and allied industries. And when you think about that, from what I showed you earlier, there's a lot of states here that don't have any help. And there's no one there, so they might say, well, okay, I can get on the internet, and I can pull up this document and help me try to answer the question I have here. So we put it together, and so we basically, I said, we got to look at it. My position was, there's 3 things I work with on a farm, and I've been on over thousands of farms over the years. I said, you either got a gilt problem, or you got a sow reproductive problem, or it's boars, right? Semen quality. That's what the 3 are. And that's so why we formed it up. And so then we put together Dr. Estienne, excuse me, this thing went the wrong way. Puberty attainment, he worked on that one. He came up with 189 questions. These are a number of questions and answers. So there's 189. Now some of them could be duplicated. But then there's maybe too small of a gilt pool. We run into that quite frequently. You just don't have enough gilts out there. So there's 92 things you might want to take a look at. The other one is, well, litter size is too low. So there's 52 questions in there. Dr. Stalder did that one. Low failing rate was 64. Then you get down to the sow problems. You got low sow longevity. That's a big push in the industry now. And the National Pork Board is how do we increase sow productivity on a long-term basis. So there's about 104 questions there. Then, of course, sows are going to have a low failing rate. That's 121. They're going to have a low litter size. They're extended weaning to service animal. They wean them. They don't want to cycle. Why? And then the other big one is pre-weaning death loss. If you're going to increase sow longevity, you want a high productivity out of the sow, you got to keep pigs alive. So that's a pre-weaning survival, and Dr. Fransky worked on that with the University of Missouri. And then semen quality, that really, when I got down and thought about it and talked to Singleton, is that, there's only two of them. There's either a low front rate or low litter size. So they're really kind of tied together. And so, when you look at the total, there's 1,033 questions and answers in this document. That's quite a few. And so I figured, the way I set it up then, I thought, well, we initially thought, well, we'll step it through the system with you, one question at a time. But then you get down and you say, well, I'm going to ask you to go through 500 questions. You'll never do it. You just, where's that delete button? Get rid of this crap, So we've set it up where we got lists now. You can look at them and say, well, do I want to look at this one or I don't want to look at this one? So we don't want to tie you into a system that's going to take forever. Get in and get out. So they do have a user's fee. National Pork Board in charge of this. And there is a fee. Now, pork industry license, United States and Canada, $75 a year. They recommend companies with multi-users should purchase one license for every 3 users. And in foreign countries, it's $500 per year. And companies with multiple users, they like to see them purchase 3. Now, the advantage to this is that $75, I'm not going to pay $75. That's pretty cheap, isn't it? What's the veterinarian going to cost you if he's out there troubleshooting your problem? Or can you solve it yourself? The other advantage to this is that it's web-based, and you get the most current information that we have. We can change it. But if I sold it to you as a CD, you're fixed, aren't you? This one's going to be current all the time. We find new things coming in, we get in there, we can update this. If we find a problem developed, said, no, there's something, this shouldn't be in there, we can go in there and just take it right out just like that. So we try to make it really flexible, so $75, in my opinion, is pretty cheap. So that's the way that's set now. But we also have universities out here with teaching swine production, and some of the community colleges are teaching it. They don't teach a lot of it, but some of them do. So we have the deal in there where universities and community college educators, they get it free. And it's for that semester that they're teaching. So their students have access to this. So if they're teaching the course, they got some questions or troubleshooting, whatever, they can go in and say, okay, here's your assignment, and you can use the web to find the answer. Okay? Pretty slick. Now, this is what you do. You order it through their Pork Center of Excellence website, and then if you have questions, Chelsea, you can call Chelsea. And she'll take care of it on getting you ordered. Now, the thing you have to remember, this is web-based, because I was talking to a guy in Oklahoma and asked him, well, how's he getting along with it? He said, well, I ordered that thing, but I never did get the CD. So I was really disappointed. It's not, it's web, so they'll give you the numbers to get on the system, okay? Now, the financial support we've had is from the National Pork Board. They put the most dollars in it. I don't know what those dollars are at all because I didn't involve in this end of it. And then the Iowa pork producers have funded it, the Illinois pork producers, North Carolina pork producers, Hog Slats from North Carolina helped us, Triumph from Iowa has helped, ReproQuest from Minnesota or Wisconsin, and Geneta Pork from Minnesota. So those are the main funding sources we've had, because if we don't have these, it's hard to put things together.